Today we have a talk on product management organized by BITS Embryo as a part of Career Week 2026. My name is Bahu Singh
And I am Sana Abrol.
and we will be your host for today. We hope this session serves as a valuable learning opportunity for all of you, giving insight into what product management truly involves, the skills required to succeed in this field, and the exciting career possibilities it offers. We are extremely honored to have with us today a panel of two experts in their field and members of our distinguished alumni. First, we have Neha Agarwal. She graduated from BITS in 2017 and then went on to pursue her MBA at IIM Calcutta. She has a strong technical foundation and a vast experience in customer relationship management, networking, and e commerce industries. Earlier having worked at Cisco, she is currently working with Salesforce as a senior product manager.
Joining her in today's talk, we have Biresh Krishna. He graduated from BITS in 2021 and joined Hotstar, working in product. Currently, Biresh is working with Blinkit as a senior product manager, particularly helping build Bistro, which is Blinkit's food delivery service. Hello, Neha. Hello, Videsh. First of all, thank you so much for being here with us today. We truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to share your experiences with us. We're also very excited to learn from your journeys from bits to leading product roles. Without further ado, let's dive into the conversation.
All right, so to start us off, could each of you briefly share your journey into product management and what attracted you to this field? Maybe Virish, you can go first, followed by Neha.
Yeah, sure. I think just 5 years ago, I think I was just right across the room, just like all these students here, and equally confused about what this role was, right? And to me, it was pitched as mini CEO of the product or the company, and that was like, hey, gotta try something like this. And I think the way I understood it was that I'm gonna get deep into problem solving, looking at the business side, looking at users, and sort of figuring out how we can work with design, with engineering to sort of ship something which everyone sort of loves using, and it also solves everyone's pain points. So I think the way it works differently in different companies. For smaller startups, it's much more around how you're solving users' problems, and in bigger companies, about how you can drive impact at scale, right? I think Nia can elaborate more on that too. So I think, yeah, that's how I sort of got into the role. Did few um, internships to connect bitsins on in startups, in other companies, and yeah, I think internships gave me a lot of insights on how to really on what product management really means. And post that, I think working on my own company too, I was able to sort of understand how we can shape products at startups. Sure, over to you, Neha. I think you can take it.
Yeah, thanks, Varesh. And first of all, thanks everybody for having me here. It genuinely feels great to be back. You know, I would love every opportunity to be connected to fellow Bitsians, even if it is a virtual connection. I would actually start from a bit of my journey at BITS. So I was doing an undergrad at BITS Pilani. It was in electrical and electronics. And at that point in time, I was like quite intrigued by coding. I used to do that. And at that point, I thought that, okay, maybe like a natural extension of that is being a software developer. But when I was a software developer, I first interned at PayPal and then worked at Cisco for 3 years. At that point in time, obviously, the how of technical problem solving attracted me a lot. But I used to have these conversations with product managers at Cisco very often, very frequently. And, when they talked about the business goals of why we are doing something, when they talked about the users who are expecting something out of what you're building, that was something which kind of attracted me towards product management, if you will. So I was like, okay, let's explore this bit. I'm already in love with IT, so let's explore product management, especially because it kind of was sitting at that junction between technical expertise and problem solving for users and also balancing business goals, right? So that was kind of the point which came out in every conversation I used to have with product managers, even if you look at your engineering counterparts, you would have that thing in mind. Even when I talk to my engineering teams today, the first question they ask is, why are we building this? What is the need, right? So I think that was kind of what attracted me towards it. And even when I was doing my MBA, all of these conversations were very free flowing. Whether you talk with somebody who is in a very diverse domain, maybe like somebody is coming from art, somebody is pursuing consulting, all of these conversations are kind of at the heart of it, which kind of attracted me more and more towards this role. And I guess I joined Salesforce 3.5 years back, and I love every bit of it, right? Like to what Viresh was saying, I kind of echo everything. It's about solving users problem, be empathetic towards your user, just try and understand what you are providing as a value to them. And the biggest thing is, why should they be paying you, right? Like, of all the competition that exists out there, why should they choose you versus somebody else? So I guess that is what product management is all about: figuring out what users want, making those tough decisions, taking prioritization exercises, figuring out trade-offs that you are not basically choosing the best idea. Maybe you are kind of getting rid of the reasonable ones and figuring out the ones that sticks the most. So that's a little bit about product management, but it can get as messy as you would want it to be as you put your hands to it.
So just a follow up on that, Neha, you mentioned you were working as a software engineer and joined Salesforce only 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So was it tough for you to switch over to PM, or it came natural as you mentioned you were interested in problem solving and you were into coding? So could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, there was a time, and it was when I was at Cisco. We used to, as I mentioned, that we used to have these conversations with the other product managers who were there at the company. Early on, I kind of knew, even when I was at BITS, I kind of knew that I wanted to do some post graduation, but I did not know what it was going to be, right? So when I was at Cisco and I used to see these product managers who used to talk about the issues that they are solving for the users, and that's when I said that I guess like all the product managers are kind of born that way, that they start having these conversations, they are quite attracted to it. So that's when we used to have these conversations, and people had very many different ways that they would want to make that switch, right? It can be as natural as you are doing engineering, you are a software developer, you would spend some years onto that job, followed by making a transition to product management. That's like one path that people generally take. But I was like, okay, enough with coding, enough with technical problem solving, and I just want to make that accelerated path. That's when I thought that, okay, let's do a domain switch. Um, then as I joined Salesforce, I don't think it was that tough a deal, and specifically because past 3 years at Cisco has taught me that technical domain that you would need when you are making, all of these tough decisions as a product manager. So I think that was one edge which kind of made it a little bit easier for me. But I have had conversations with other PMs. Salesforce has an APM program that hires students who are, even doing their undergrads. They have had no industry exposure, no technical expertise in like real industry. So even they would join an APM program and would start building products. So from their lens, I would say that it would be a little bit difficult when you are having all of these conversations with your internal stakeholders, because as PMs, we are doing both the roles, right? The external facing role when you're talking to customers, when you're trying to figure out their issues. but you're also talking with your internal stakeholders on a day-to-day basis. You're talking with your engineering teams, you're talking with your design partners, you're talking with your quality assurance teams, so on and so forth. So I feel like if somebody has an exposure in that domain beforehand, it becomes a little bit easier. But I would not say that it is, making something hard. We are not launching rockets here, so I guess it's easy even if you are not having that domain. But you are going to feel that it just rubs off on you.
Right, right. I agree. Okay, moving on. My next question would be for someone completely new. How would you explain what product management actually involves day to day? So maybe we can start with Viresh and then go over to Neha, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think, by the way, that is the hardest problem to sort of question to answer for a PM. Super hard to explain the job, but I'll try to take a stab at it. Essentially, the day to day is like working very closely with data, working very closely with your users and to understand how they're using your app, right? Like getting their behavior into place. And the good part about like working in consumer facing products is that almost everyone in your network is using it, right? So you sort of talk to your friends, talk to people around you, try to see how they're interacting with your app. That's one way. The other way is you sort of sit with data, go deep into build some hypothesis, look closely at data, and run experiments, right? So I think when you sort of have a strong hypothesis, it's easier to sort of run multiple experiments, track how they're doing, and ultimately sort of present it to everyone in your team. Ki, hey, like this is what you've shipped, and this is the impact that we've got. Probably experiment A, probably experiment B has worked, and now once the experiments have worked, you have to scale them up, right? And the impact is obviously like multifold. Like you're also sort of solving users' problems, and also need to ensure your business is growing. So you need to be like very careful of how the impact is not only on like a short term basis, also on a long term basis overall. So it's a lot of getting ideas through identifying problems, executing those ideas through experiments, and understanding which experiments will work, scaling those experiments, and then finally sort of showing impact what you're doing. So that's how it works. And it's usually very multifaceted. You're working with like a lot of people because obviously you understand business problems by working with business teams. You understand users' problems by talking to people, looking at data. You work with other stakeholders, which might be impacted once you sort of launch something on your app. So I think it requires a lot of communication. It requires a lot of alignment, aligning people towards a goal that you see will work. So a lot of stakeholder management from that perspective too. So yeah, I think that should sort of like, briefly summarize what this role sort of entails.
Yeah, and like I can just one say that everything that Viresh said, right? Like obviously taking forward the point of stakeholders, I referred to it earlier as well. We are talking about internal responsibilities and external responsibilities. Obviously, depending on what role you are in, there are some product managers which are only focused on external aspects. There are some product managers who are focused on internal aspects. I guess, like at Salesforce, it's more around doing both of those jobs. So yeah, it's like starting with customer conversations for us. It's super important when we are going in our release reviews. If we present that we are going to be building something, you need to tell why are you building that, right? What is the customer requirement that you're trying to solve? Sometimes obviously there are scenarios when a customer is asking for something, but it might not align with your business goals, right? Like if your company is saying that, for example, hypothetically speaking, if Salesforce is saying that let's just go ahead and build agents, right, for everything, and then a customer is not ready to go on to their AI journey, how would you balance all of those situations in prioritizing what you should build? So I would say that, yeah, it's talking to customers, trying to figure that out, also trying to figure out your business goals, your business values. And then comes the hardest part when you are done convincing two stakeholders that, yeah, we are going to solve this problem and this aligns with our business as well. That's when the bottleneck is towards your technical aspect or the infrastructure or your engineering teams. They would look at it from a very different lens. They would look at it from a scalability perspective. They would look at performance angles. They would look at technical debts. So you would start thinking in those realms as well. How do you balance that act of figuring out that everyone is kind of agreed on the same goal and all of us are on the same page with respect to building something. And after you are done launching a particular feature, tracking the adoption of it becomes super important, super critical. At times, there are going to be many customers who are using your features, your products. So you're going to get continued feedback from them. But what happens if your product is not having adoption? How do you start having those conversations with customers? How do you bring in more people who can maybe see value in what you have built? So I would say it's kind of a package. It comes with mundane aspects and the exciting aspects as well.
That's great to hear, Neha. That really adds a lot of perspective on the role of a product manager. Now, my next question to both of you would be, as Virish said, how product management is such like kind of a vague term in the industry. And my personal question to you was, since product managers work across very different domains, right? So from software apps to even physical products, and I believe both of you have a technical background. But what core qualities of a product manager remain essential regardless of the industry? Maybe again, Virish, you could go first.
See, I think it's a little bit hard to answer this question when I'm looking at physical products because the feedback cycle of physical products is very different, right? When you're sort of doing something technical, the feedback loop is much faster. Whereas when you're shipping something physical, like the research and the collection of feedback is sort of it takes a lot more time to incorporate into the physical product and launch it again. So I think I lack some understanding there, but like just sticking to technical products, right? Um, I think it's sort of important to understand that. Once again, can you repeat the question between physical and technical? What was the exact sort of point of view you're looking at?
Yeah, so I just want to know what core qualities remain essential as a
Qualities.
product manager in regardless of the industry,
See, I
whether you're
think
building a technical
it, it's
product
it's
or a
it's
physical
what I
one.
think Neha spoke about earlier. It's all around empathy, right? So I think it's super important for you to empathize with what the problem statement is, and then sort of understand how it can like so empathy becomes one. The second becomes like how you're able to sort of align people on the goal you're trying to build, like the goal you're trying to achieve, so that becomes the other. Third is working with people. I think it's super important that you can work with, let's say, design, engineering, business team, etc. So I think that stakeholder management or like just working with people is super important. The fourth is very good at execution, right? Like either I think the physical or the technical, you should be great at like implementing the solution you've thought through, right? So you need to get like your hands really dirty. You need to sort of it can also mean like, for example, let's say at Blinkit, you have done something on the store side, right? You've implemented a solution which sort of uh, improves the efficiency at the Blinkit store. So you might have to just go down to the store, see if an experiment is running actually the way it is. So you need to be on ground. You have to be on your like at your on your feet. So getting your hands dirty. So that's the other. Um, I think apart from that, it's more of also like I think Neha also spoke about prioritization, right? A lot of times you have like probably multiple ways to solve a problem. But what might actually be the fastest way to sort of solve it and also bring impact? That intuition, right? That comes with a lot of like experience and comes a lot of experimentation. So initially, because you're just yeah, I think everyone here, like all students here, are going to break into PM, start with PM. So you will sort of you should try to run as many experiments, as many solutions you can think of, and learn from those. Like a lot of those will not work, but slowly over time you'll build intuition. So that intuition comes with time. So I think that becomes a very key sort of I would say skill when you are in a senior role. And but starting off is just execution. Get your hands dirty, identify the right problems, and implement them.
Thank you so much, Vireesh. Neha, would you like to add on to that?
I think he has covered the core components of it. I would keep it like super simple. If you are starting off on your product management journey, the first thing is to empathize with customers, and Virish talked at length about it. Second thing I would say is structured problem solving, right? Like when you are having these customer conversations, a customer would come and say that I want something, right? But you need to see what they are describing is actually the thing that they need, or it is something completely different, right? So most often than not, you're going to have these ambiguous problems that you are going to get from your customers. So you need to kind of break those down into clear components. So that's number one. Number two is exceptionally great communication skills. I feel that since a lot of the job of a product management has to do with stakeholder management, whether it's internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, your job involves aligning people, your job involves articulating the problem really well, articulating the solution really well. So I guess communication is another aspect. And third thing is, again, kind of Harish talked about it, it's around analytical thinking. How you are with numbers, how are you with data, matrix, and, reasoning, right? So you have to be super curious about all of these things. You have to be super curious about users and systems. So I feel that's another thing which kind of sums it up. And lastly, you have to show that you are a great owner, because at the end of the day, whatever you are building, you have to say that this is what I own. I see this every now and then, whether it is, let's say, a technical mishap that happened, or it was something which is not aligning now with customers. Everything kind of comes down to you as a product manager, and you have to own it. So I feel like if you can display that you are great at owning whatever you are doing, be it coming out with a product, coming out with a decision, making a trade off, just do what you can do best and own up to it.
I think that's a great insight, Neha and Viresh. Now, I want to touch upon how to build a career in product management, basically, career guidance. For students interested in PM, where should they start building relevant skills? So, for example, basically being specific, being a student at BITS Pilani, which is a private engineering college, what are the resources or courses that can be utilized during our time here? Say, because I'm a first year, right? So I do not know that much. So if you could guide me based on your experience.
Where
See, I think, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, I think first you need to identify whether you want to do this, right? And that can only come through probably learning from people who are already in the industry. So I think these sort of conferences, these sort of talks help you identify whether you're fit for the role also or not. Secondly, when it comes to skills, right? Okay, let's say you've made up your mind. You've come to a point, hey, PMing looks like something I want to sort of pursue. I think the next foot in the door is sort of being in BITS. You have the option to do a lot of internships. You have summer internships. You have your PS school, practice schools. Try to get your foot in the door by just experiencing it in an internship, right? They'll give you a lot of hands-on, a lot of network too, right? When you sort of work in a corporate environment, you sort of are exposed to a lot of people who are already established PMs in that company. So you learn from people too and what they're doing. It's difficult to get internships. It's not possible to get hands-on experience. Then I would suggest, given the kind of environment we are in now, I think all of us are in a place we can sort of build stuff on our own, despite not having a very strong technical background, right? So just go out there, figure out a problem that you would like to solve, ship it. You have like Lovable, you have Emergent, you have like so many AI tools out there to help you sort of bring a solution to a problem statement that you are close to, right? So I would say that I think courses have their own. You can take online courses that might work as well, but I think you only learn by sort of doing things, executing things, and by people who are already established in the space itself. So talk to a lot of people, build your network, and execute your ideas either through joining companies through internships or building stuff by your own, right? Um, So yeah, I think
Any particular
that's
courses you would like to recommend to the students here,
see, I've
or
done
any
none.
particular
I've
books?
done, yeah, I have done none of
Okay,
these courses, so I don't know. But I would say कि I joined a lot of these conversations, right? I used to go to conferences, I used to
right.
network with product managers there, and just try to understand how they're thinking, right? How are they sort of approaching problem statements? Some of you might like feel like a conference is a hard thing to do, but I would suggest like definitely putting in effort to sort of go out there and learn from industry experts. That just helps a lot more. And to be very frank, like not just PMing in general, when you're sort of working in corporate, you a strong network always helps you sort of open doors for you and opportunities for you. So yeah.
That's great. Neha, would you like to add something as well?
I think he has covered most of it. And, in terms of talking about courses or programs that you should be doing, I don't think even today that there is a PM ready state, if you will, right? Like you are learning as you are building, as you are developing, you are kind of making yourself more suitable for the role. But I don't think that there is a perfect recipe as to how do you become a PM. Um, the skills that we talked about, whether it's structured thinking, whether it is making decisions under constraints, whether it is problem solving, I guess any course or anything that kind of um, gives you those skills would be a great fit for making yourself PM ready. But the other aspect of it, and I have learned it in my MBA, is just talk to people, right? Like, and Viresh touched upon that. I guess networking is one of the core aspects that you develop in MBA, and I feel it's the core of product management because it kind of touches on to all of these things that we are talking about, right? Like how do you do stakeholder management? How do you know how do I talk to this particular person from an engineering? You have to think through their lens, that what is it that's important for them, right? And then you are talking with a customer, then you are thinking from their lens. When you are talking with executive, you are talking with leadership of your own organization, you are thinking from their lens. So I think when you network, when you go out and talk to as many people as you can, you start seeing diverse perspectives. You start getting to know how you are approaching a problem, and you thinking that this is the only way or this is the best way can be crushed in just a moment by talking to someone else who comes with an entirely different perspective, and that is 100% right as well. So I feel networking, I would say, is the biggest thing that gets you into that skill of being empathetic to diverse perspectives and being in the know of what people expect. So much so that I was doing my own um, small bit-sized pieces of podcast. I was doing this with my leaders at Salesforce. So I used to have these in a minute, I call it in a snap. So there we go and have conversations with leaders, with your peers, with people of the industry from different domains, and just get to know things from their perspective. Even if you're not talking about product management, so to say, just having normal conversations around how their approach is to different things kind of diverses your perspective, and it helps you being more empathetic, I would say.
So, both of your experiences have put a lot of emphasis on networking.
Yeah.
And I mean, apart from, networking and talking to people, is there anything specific? I want to talk about you being about your placement journey into your company. So, is there any specific uh, experience or a project per se that makes a strong product management resume while applying for a job?
I would not say, and my experience is obviously different from Viresh's. I was placed at Salesforce from IIM Calcutta, so it was a campus placement. I guess my experience was that they were looking for all of those skills that I talked about earlier. And since I was a software developer, I have worked through so many of those projects early on. So that kind of gave an edge into what they were looking for. But I would say they were also testing in all of those interview rounds. One is How good are you in trying to figure out what is the ambiguity from a problem statement, and how do you come out with actual components that are to be developed? I guess that was the only skill that they were looking for, apart from all of these other things that we talked about. um, but having said that, I don't think it would greatly differ basis the domain that you are coming from, because at Salesforce I have seen that there are product managers in the states, and obviously it might differ in India, but in states I have seen that there are product managers who were teachers before, right? Like, it is so diverse. You would never imagine that a teacher who is there at a higher ed school is, now a product manager. And then I have seen that there are people who are doing UX designs, they are doing design thinking, they are doing research, and them transitioning into product management roles. So I feel like it's as I said earlier, it's not a perfect recipe as to what is going to make a good product manager on paper when you are looking at a resume. But it's more like if you can evidently show in your resume that you are good with structured problem thinking, whether it is through projects that you would have done at a company, whether it is something that you has uptaken as a project for yourself, as Viresh was talking about, or it is internships that you have done, or as simple as being part of all of these campus clubs and departments. So I feel like when I was interviewing at Cisco, I was part of Reconnect. I was a director there, so that also kind of helped us having that conversation around how would you manage a fest of a scale of Apogee or OSs, and how would you manage all of those people who are coming in, right? So you would not directly connect both of these things, but then it shows the skills that a product manager kind of needs. And that's what your resume should scream.
I
Yes.
think Neha like, covered it beautifully. I think what it also ties down to is high ownership, right? I think we spoke about this a little earlier. Like in your resume, there should be a clear sort of indicator that you will own things and get them shipped, drive them. So high ownership is super important, whether you do it through your clubs and departments in college, or you do it through your own projects, you do it through internships. The idea is to show that strong signal there, right? Secondly, like in your in college right now, you have these APM programs, right? I think there are very few back when I was sort of sitting for placement, but these APM programs, they're very aware that hey, this person is very new to product management. They probably we need to sort of shape them, train them, and show them the basics. So these APM programs will definitely guide you. You don't need to sort of have like a product internship or build your own thing, etc., etc. Just high ownership is a strong signal itself. If you're not sort of because like the amount of people who get hired through the APM programs are very limited. I think if there are three companies, around two per company will get hired to around 6 to 10 people back in my day. So if you're not able to get through these programs, then it's sort of then the other way to sort of get the foot in the door is sort of working with a much smaller company like a startup, or obviously the option of an MBA is also open. I think what probably a startup will give you is getting your hands dirty, whereas sort of what an MBA will sort of give you is a very structured approach, right? And in PM interviews, especially having a structured approach is very very important, right? So irrespective whether you're going applying for a startup, you're applying for a bigger company, it does not matter. Approach to a problem statement through structure is vital. It's essential to problem solving. Even as a practice in our sort of PM role, we look at we give a lot of importance to structure than just randomly shooting ideas. So it's important that you sort of like I think Neha has spoken about breaking down a problem statement, right? Like so that becomes like very very important. Like when you're looking at a problem, deep into it, right? Why is this a problem? Why is this a pain point for this person? And sort of don't like there's no way you're cracking PM interviews or getting into product management if you're just shooting good ideas. Good ideas is great to have, but what is really needed in the role is identifying the right problems and getting to the bottom of it, right? So yeah, that's how I would sort of put it.
Right. Thank you for that answer. That was really in detail. Now, since we were talking about our journey of joining a company as a product manager, how big a role does CG play while sitting for placements for PM? I mean, that is really a pertinent question for us students out here.
Neha, do you want to take that, bro? You can take the difficult ones.
Okay, so don't ask me my CG if I say that, okay, it does not matter that much. I would put it like this. I don't think it matters in the long run. Obviously, when you're talking about B schools, when you're talking about getting all of your resumes shortlisted, if you're applying through, your traditional paths, there is obviously a bias for your pedigree. There is obviously a bias for your CGPA. Obviously, all of that kind of comes into play. um, but having said that, there are obviously other ways of getting into a PM role that we have been talking about, right, from the past couple of minutes. That if your companies are not shortlisting you for whatever criteria it may be, there are other ways to get your foot in the door, as Viresh was saying, and then make those switches. So, like, being brutally honest here, if you are looking at, for example, my placement from IIM Calcutta, they had a huge focus on what my CGPA was, not just in, let's say, BITS Pilani. They also looked at what it was in my 10th standard and 12th standard, and what my jobs were before applying for a PM role. And obviously, it was a cutthroat competition. They looked at even the percentile for CAT, right? So all of these things come into play. I don't want to say that it would not, but maybe it would be more if you are going, as I said, from the traditional paths. Um, yeah, but there are definitely other ways to get into the same role. Maybe you would not get there in your first year, for example, right? You might need to get some exposure, whether it is um, I don't know, having that role at some startups, having your own things, and then kind of proving those skills. I think it has to do with proving those skills. And there is a bias in the way traditional recruiting is done, that if you are portraying those good matrix, right, whether it's your CGPA or whether it is the jobs that you have had, it kind of comes across as you have those skills. But then obviously there is a way to talk about being in that path of building those skills by other ways of working at startups and building things on your own.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that,
think Neha's. I'm so sorry, Sana. You wanna go ahead?
no, no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I think Neha's covered most of it. I think GPA. Okay, so it differs like from company to company, obviously, right? I think back when I in my day, I think the Flipkart APM program didn't really care about your GPA. They were mostly concerned with again strong ownership of the signal. So I would suggest like research. Like the companies come into your placements. Some of them may have a high GPA requirement according to whatever needs to have, but it's not like a one fit rule. Like like most bigger companies will have probably, but Flipkart is big too. They didn't have, so it differs a lot from what they really require. I think working in startups, no one really cares about your GPA. I think it's about for much smaller startups which are like under Series A, pre-seed, something like that. The more you're able to highlight why you want to sort of work with them to solve the problem they're solving, that's like key, right? So, for example, when it comes to like Blinkit, why does this problem of quick commerce resonate with you the most, right? Why does it matter to you so much? If you're able to show that, then it matters a lot. And for much smaller companies, again, the same thing, right? Um, Also understand like GPA. If you don't have like a strong GPA in college, you should have like a reason to sort of justify. Ki, hey, if probably studies was not something I was really into sort of pursuing, what else were you doing? Like what how did you sort of manage that time in college, right? So that can come through either co-curriculars, while like Neha was a part of Reconnect. I worked with the entrepreneurship cell back in college. I worked with Wine Degrees Consulting. So all of those things is highlighted that like if I didn't have a very strong GPA, I was also sort of stronger in the areas I pursued in college otherwise. So I think that is how you should look at it. But yeah, I think summarizing it, essentially, bigger companies will probably care about your GPA. Startups might not. So yeah.
Okay, that's great takeaway. I think Neha, you were saying how cutthroat the
But
competition is as
I'll just add for
well.
all the students out there, focus on your GPA. Like, as much as we are saying, it does not matter, but do focus.
It doesn't give us an excuse to stop studying.
Yeah.
Okay, but you were saying how cutthroat the competition is in terms of IIM also. They checked all your previous records and percentile from everywhere, and that's how you secured your PM job. Whereas, Viresh, you haven't pursued any higher education. That's what we've seen. So, if you could tell us, Neha, if you could say how your MBA has helped you with your current role, and Viresh, maybe you could tell us if you did or did not see any value in any higher education towards PM.
Yeah, I would just say that, and while I was saying this, I'm telling you not to share this with anybody because people would kill me. But I would still go ahead and say that with respect to MBA, all I did was networking. Like, like you all can say that, oh, this is like just showing off that okay, even though you are at a premier education institution, you are, kind of taking the entire thing down and summing it up as a networking activity. But I would still go ahead and say that it was something which I did most often than not in my 2 years. My experience was that I was the first COVID batch at IIM Calcutta. So we were like flustered because we were like, oh my God, we can't go to college for the initial 1.5 trimester. We were there at our homes, missing out on that entire networking experience. But I feel like it was something that shaped my PM journey a lot. And when I came to Salesforce, I think I was kind of missing that again because like it was still the era when we were just getting out of COVID. People were not there in offices as much as they were before. So you do not have a lot of people to talk to. And even within Salesforce, for example, I'm part of Education Cloud. So we are building a software that is catered to higher education institutions. Even BITS Pilani, the career cell, is a customer of ours. So you know um, it would be great that I am talking to so many people who are part of the same domain, but then Salesforce as a whole has so many products that are catered to different areas. There is auto, there is manufacturing, there is health, there is consumer goods, so on and so forth, right? There is no shortage of people that you can talk to and get more diverse perspectives. And that's when I was like, okay, let me start something. So that's when I started doing these small podcasts. When I was talking to people, I was trying to figure out how I can expand my reach and get to know more, because I don't think how much ever you learn, you are always at that state where you can learn more. So MBA, I feel, taught me this. And the one other thing that MBA taught, and I think is a great application of that skill that we learned, was, just chasing deadlines. In my IIM, there were such how should I put it? There were such stupid deadlines, like 2:59:59 a.m. is your deadline for submitting an assignment, and you have to honor it. So you are at it while you also have classes in the morning where you have to read case studies. You have to be prepped up before you are going into a class, because there are going to be cold calls, there are going to be marks which are given basis how much you are participating in a course, right? So you have so many things that are going on, and you have to manage all of them. Again, it kind of teaches you how you are making decisions, how you are making trade-offs, right? At one point in time, I would be like, okay, maybe like I'm not going to go play my basketball match today. I might just prioritize reading a case study, right? But at other point in time, I would be like, no, today I have to go and meet this alumni who has just come in, and they might have great perspectives to share. So that kind of built that habit or skill of seeing through so many parameters and trying to figure out which one to prioritize, which is something that comes in PM day to day business. Every aspect of it is touched by that, whether it is something that you're building for a big company, for a big customer, or you are building for a startup. I guess that is something which MBA teaches you. So I would like primarily put it to networking, and also decision making under constraints.
Yeah, I think I'll just be sort of, I'll start with, I think first, like why, what MBA really does. I think it is sort of, it's just like how you are in bits, right? When you are at a college like bits, you have a lot of opportunities open up to you, right? Similarly, when you are at an MBA, the opportunities that you get are going to be way more than probably you get at a BTech, right? That's one. So MBA will help you open up opportunities. If you feel like there is like a very few opportunities out there, then I think MBA does open doors for you. Secondly, I think what really an MBA will probably help you is also, I spoke a lot about structure, right? What it might help you with also is like how you present and stitch your story, right? So and obviously I think MBA also teaches you about a lot of real world case studies out there. So a lot of PMs who come with that MBA background are able to sort of bring that to the table too. But all of this said, right, I think networking again being a very key aspect too. All of these things, I felt I could learn better by being on the job, and I was fortunate enough to get opportunities where I could do this on the go. And not everyone is probably going to be that fortunate. So I would suggest that that if you feel like you're the kind of person who learns he or she learns more by doing things, it is better to start at startups. Get your hands dirty. Um, and you will learn from whatever you do and also the people around you, and that will also help you build a lot of insight in the industry you're working in. So that's like the way to go about it. And I think even if you're not just working with startups, there are ample of problem statements that you can find by yourself today and just start working on them. So I would suggest um, like there's a way to sort of learn things. You either do it in an institute via an MBA, or you sort of do it at the job at a company or a startup. It depends a lot on your personal sort of take on it. And some people feel that you can drive a lot more value through a degree, and a lot of people feel that it's possible to sort of derive a lot of value by doing it on the job. So I think that's how you're gonna that's how you should think about it. You should sort of sit with yourself and see what kind of a person you are and what might work like best for you. There are no sort of there's gonna be pros and cons about like both approaches, right? It comes down to finally what you are most comfortable with sort of doing, right? Um, yeah.
Thank you, Vireesh. That's thank you both of you. I mean, that's a great takeaway for people who have plans on going on an MBA further. And now I'd like to circle back to your current roles in your companies now. So my question would be: you're both building in very different ecosystems. Blinkit operating in a fast-paced B2C environment, and Salesforce serving enterprise B2B clients. How does product thinking differ between B2C and B2B? Maybe Virish, you could tell us about Blinkit, and Neha, you could tell us about Salesforce.
Yeah, sure. I think B2C is a lot about experimentation. I think, um, like I said earlier, like you just like a lot of people around you are using your product, right? So you talk to people around you, you try to figure out what are the most pressing problems, right? And like I said, I think that's just one way to get insight. The other way is you get deep into data, right? You sort of understand what the user journey is on your app, and you see like where you can sort of where the biggest pain point is currently sitting at, right? So that's the next approach. The third approach is like once you sort of you've gathered a bit of data, you've spoken to a lot of people, you sort of get down to what is the best way to solve the problem then, right? There can be like multiple ways to do it, and that's when sort of prioritization kicks in, right? And that prioritization comes through experience of sort of having experimented before. So initially when you're joining as a very early PM, you might come up with a lot of bad ideas, but like you will only know if they're bad ideas once you sort of experiment with them. So it's all about that, right? And yeah, that's how the day to day really looks like. I think now with a lot of AI tools, like the journey to experimentation has become really fast. Earlier, the dependency on design engineering was quite heavy, so you could experiment. The way you experimented much slower. Now that I think PMs can be a lot more efficient, given like you can prototype faster. Just put your PRD into Figma, get a prototype out, and so the journey to sort of execution has become a lot faster now. So that helps you and like solve problems much quickly. And yeah, I think can go into a lot of like different sections here. I think we can just hear from Neha too. And if there's anything in particular, I think Sana, or Bahu, if you feel you can double click on, let's just go with that.
Yeah, I guess in my experience, the biggest difference between B2B and B2C is not just who the users are, but I would say how the decisions are made and what success looks like. Specifically because you all would know, right? Like we are using all of these apps, we are using Zomato, we are using Swiggy, we are using Blinkit. In B2C products, user is the decision maker. We are choosing that I am going to use this app for this particular problem. If we don't like a product, we are going to simply stop using it because there are so many competitors out there. I can say that the feedback loops are very fast, competition is intense. And I would say habit formation is super critical, right? Like now, today, I have to order something. I am invariably going to go and open Zepto in my phone. Like there is no processing happening in my brain around that because a habit has been formed. So I would say that in B2C, you are kind of winning by forming a habit. It differs greatly when we are talking about a B2B environment because things are super complex, right? The person who is making decision is an executive, a leader who is sitting at the top. So the buyer is different, the administrator is different, and at the end, the user is different. So the product that I am working on, we are building products for students and staff. They are the end users, but who is the person making that decision is obviously different from these personas, right? So I guess different people in B2B have different incentives, and adoption is not just influenced by usability, it is influenced so much by how much your product can offer integration through workflows, organizational priorities, budgets, and then obviously change management is one aspect. So I would say that this is where problems kind of differ between B2B and B2C space. The other thing, obviously, is scale and friction. In B2C, if I notice that there is a small UX change, right? If in Zepto I go today and I see that the button is not looking the way it used to, I'm not liking the theme, it might have an impact in longer run in the habit that we talked about. But in B2B, as we are serving fewer users, we are dealing with complexity of different kind. The problems are linked with business processes, customizations, data structures, so on and so forth. So I would say that in B2B, as I said, we are thinking about workflows, efficiencies. So we are winning by infrastructure. In B2C, we are winning by habit formation.
I think that puts things into perspective in terms of B2B and B2C. You guys talked about experimenting and experience. So, in terms of that, I have an interesting question for you guys. Can you share a product failure or challenge you experienced and what it taught you?
Yeah, who wanna go first?
I think there's so many that it's hard to sort of pick and choose which one you would sort of learn from. I think what I would how I would put it as is I think I would talk about something that didn't work at scale. In fact, like I think like back at Hotstar, I think, and even at Salesforce today, it's very very important that you build products that scale, right? It's like you solve problems. It looks like it's working for a small set of users, but it's not necessary that it sort of scales for everyone, and especially from an infrastructure standpoint, right? Like Neha mentioned. So I think leave that. I think probably Neha can do a better job at explaining how things break at scale and how you can learn from those. I'll probably come back to sort of just the B2C side again. I think a lot of times you have your biases, right? Like you sort of think that the way you use a consumer facing product, that should be sort of intuitive for everyone, but that's not true. Like like how we interact with sort of Blinkit or Bistro or any other consumer app today is not the same as how probably you or anybody in this forum is doing so there's a lot of bias there. And initially I think that bias that this problem should be solved in the way I think it's best did not work. right? I realized that it looks easy to me, but it's not necessarily easy for everyone else. So I think just dump proofing ideas work, right? I made like the UX a lot more simpler, easier to understand, and gave a lot more call outs. I think those things you learn like from feature to feature, and like I think for example, just this if open the app, the Bistro app, I think you will see that when you open the app, the products are just thrown on your face, like and then you're confused, like how what really go about, and your natural sort of instinct is to scroll down, like that's because that's you've been watching a lot of reels, so like everyone just scrolls down, right? So I think I built a solution to sort of help you not scroll down and just sort of explore products from the top of the page. And that didn't work, like, because everyone
Huh.
was so used to scrolling down. So I think, yeah, you just learn by sort of doing things, and just have to be like very careful about the biases you have. It's sort of you need to sort of think very holistically, and not just what people around you or you have been thinking. And that understanding only comes from talking to a lot of people who are using your product and not you yourself, right? You are not necessarily the TG of your product too. So yeah, I think I would sort of put it that way.
I would share a challenge which is like very personal to me. It's not something that is typical product management related. Obviously, you guys can learn that when you are at a product management job. But when you are in a team, when you're part of a team, when you're doing something, you would, as a human, I guess there is this tendency that you are going to want to have that plum project, right? Like, for example, right, everybody is talking about AI, and so as part of a product, if you have some budget that's kind of allocated to AI, you would be like, oh, I wish I could get that project because it would be high visibility, high stakes, and you're going to get lot more credibility when you are walking through ambiguous waters. But I feel like early on when I joined Salesforce, this is like the starting 1 year that I'm talking about, I was given a project, and I was working diligently towards, figuring out the requirements, how are we going to solve this problem, and so on and so forth. Everyone was like super excited about that space that I was working on. It was a little bit complicated as well. Um, we were trying to solve degree planning. We go and register for our courses, right? So how do students do that prioritization and stuff like that? So yeah, like 3 months down the road, I have my PRD ready, I have everything going. And what happened was there was a change of business priorities. We were asked from the leadership that you have to go live with your product in the next 4 months. So what happened was one of the other teams that's part of my bigger team in the States was working on a feature which would take 2 releases to build. But since this directive came, my team was asked to take on some work from their team, which they had already, jotted down the requirements for. They have done the prioritization. They have done the entire exercise of figuring out how it's going to work for users. So it was just handed over to me, and I was like asked to do the execution. And I think after a lot of sulking and 2 buckets of ice cream tubs and all of that, I was like, why am I asked to do something, and shelving the work that I've already done? And that was such a great project that I was working on. But I think at that point in time, I had great mentors in my team, and I used to talk to them about this specific thing, that you are going to face this so many times. And this is not related to product management. This is kind of universal. You're working on something, you would want a project that's like super glamorous, but there would be situations when you are not going to get it because of no fault of yours. But I guess whatever you are doing, and that taught me that the general manager of our project, we were having a one-on-one, and I was discussing this with him at that point in time, and he said, you can do a great job at whatever is handed over to you, which kind of displays it to the world, the credibility of what you are doing, even if it is a project which would not have anything to talk to you about, to talk to the world about. But if you are doing a great job, you can still go ahead and find things that you would showcase of what you kind of brought to the table. So even when that project was handed over, we did great enablement sessions for that feature when it came out. We had great meetings with our solution engineers, with our customers, and they were so impressed by the way we have done enablement that it kind of became a benchmark that how you should be doing enablement. Now, as you see, this is not to do with the requirements that came in for the project or the product, the designs or the execution. It kind of boiled down to the enablement that was done. So like, no matter what you are given, you would always find something that you can do that kind of adds your flavor to what you are bringing to the table, and that has something special about it. So I would say that don't always um, chase the thing which is super shiny. Just do the best at the opportunities that you have.
So thank you both of you for sharing that story with us. And I guess we've talked a lot about the nitty-gritties of the PM role today. And since we're running a little short on time, I would like to end with a fun question from my side before we move on to the audience questions. My question would be, if not the PM role, what career do you think you would have chosen today? Maybe both of you, Virishka, you can go
Neha, you
first.
can't say software engineering back.
Yeah,
Completely new.
that's a very interesting question. I have so many answers, and but yeah, I think a lot of products that we use. I think Neha spoke about habit formation, right? It's all a lot around gamification, right? And it's deep into user psychology. So I think if if I wasn't doing a PM role, I would definitely be a game designer. I and I think that the fact that like someone is interacting with a game or with a feature on my app the way I intended to. Like for example, if I'm building levels and people are sticking onto the app because they're seeing their levels grow, they're sort of seeing their game character grow into the game, and that would give me a lot of kick. So I think um, where gaming industry really sits is very deep into user psychology, and that would sort of interest me quite a bit. So definitely that.
Which
Uh,
company would you like to be placed in? If you have any answer.
no, I don't have like an answer to this, but definitely I think somewhere very deeply rooted into user psychology. I think it's I think if I really had to put something out there, it would be probably sports. But yeah, I think that's how I would put it. I think a lot of times in consumer facing products, because you're trying to build habit formations, you sort of use levers so that you can gamify it and people sort of keep coming back to your app. Like at Bistro, we had a leaderboard program back in December where we sort of said, ki, hey, if you earned X points to X orders, you will win iPads and Marshall speakers, and people went like crazy over it. Like people were ordering left, right, and center just so that they could win something. So I think I think those are some aspects I would be working on, and I try to sort of incorporate those in the role I'm also into. But yes, quite limited.
My answer is strikingly different and not difficult because we talked about it in our PM team meeting, I guess, a couple months back. I would be an actor or a model. I would do that, which is like super different from what I'm doing today. But yeah, alternate life and alternate career.
That's great. I think those are great answers. Now, I think we're short on time, so let's go on to audience Q&A. First of all, to end it again, thank you so much, Neha and Viresh, for taking the time and being here with us. I'm sure everyone's had a lot to gain from today's session. Let's move ahead to the audience questions now. Please raise your hands if you have a question, and we'll hand over the mic to you, or else you can write your queries in the chat box. Yes, we have a question from Ananya. What books, podcasts, or resources would you recommend for PM roles?
I guess like similar to what we have answered before, and like my personal opinion, I don't think I have specific recommendations for books or podcasts. But yeah, I'm lately seeing that there are so many podcasts which are done by product leaders. You can go and watch those to gain diverse perspectives. um yeah, and I would say leverage AI is great at giving great recommendations. Even within Salesforce, we are today doing this exercise of, building the entire thing end to end without using engineering teams. We are building everything using Cursor. So, you can start exploring certain things there, and obviously you can ask AI for great recommendations too. But I would say just focus on the skills that we talked about, and then resources would be things that suit you.
We've
Yeah,
got
not
another
not
angsty question with us. How important are product internships during college? And what if I don't land one here? Maybe Vireesh, you can tell us about your internship journey as well.
Sorry, I think Viresh, you were going back to the previous question. If you could.
no. I think that's very well summarized. I
So,
think
so
AI
sorry, so
tools,
sorry.
etc. No worries, no worries. I think it's you can refer to books. I think definitely there's this on habit formation. There's hooked, but all of these like recommendations you can easily get online now. I think Lenny's newsletter is pretty good. Follow people on Twitter and LinkedIn and just sort of like just derive value from those because a lot of time PMs are posting what they've been doing, so probably they'll talk about a feature they shipped and how it solved a problem, and you can sort of just learn how they're approaching a problem statement. So I would suggest like just follow the right people. I think Shreyasi, I think is one person. Um, Folks at Notion, folks at BNB. Uh, so I think you can just sort of figure out people, follow the right people on social media. Get like Hooked is good for habit formation. And obviously, to your PM, when you're interviewing, there'll be certain books which might help you sort of get up to speed. I think there's Cracked, written by some Flipkart APM person. And yeah, but anyway, I think like Neha said, like the resources you can get pulled from AI tools now. Second question, internships. It's um, see the other way, like I mentioned, was you build things by yourself, right? I think it's not going to be easy to get internships for sure. It's a hard environment. The demand supply is quite skewed. So it's okay if you don't get an internship. It's not the only way to do it. Like we've said on this meet too. I think try to have a strong signal on your resume where you're where you have led things or where you've shown high ownership. Um, Courses might not add a lot of weight, so I would suggest like doing things in college if you have time. Like can be co-curriculars or your own project for that matter, right? So that's how I would sort of answer it.
Neha, would you like to follow up on that?
I think, as he said, right, we are living in uncertain times. Obviously, you would want that you have great internships, you have great roles on your resumes. If you get one, amazing. If you don't get it, then try and figure out other ways that you can accomplish the same thing.
Okay.
We have another two-part question from Ujjwal. First is, what specifically can I learn beforehand to get into a PM company, like guesstimates, questions, and basically asking how to prep for a PM interview?
Yeah, I can speak to it when and from my experience of how I was prepping for PM roles. So we had formed a group. It was 4 or 5 people in our group, and what we have done was divided domains. So, for example, some day we were looking at food and retail. Some days we were looking at automotive manufacturing, healthcare, so on and so forth. We were figuring out the companies which are there in those domains, and every day we would come up with like a problem statement, and we would give ourselves some time, let's say 20-25 minutes, to come up with new features that you can add into an existing product, or you can come up with a product of your own. And after like 20-25 minutes, we would have a discussion in our group as to why that particular feature was prioritized. Then discuss about the other features that everyone else in the group kind of added. Then think about how competition is to be responded to if you are coming up with features like that. Think about how you are going to measure the success of that feature, what your matrix are going to look like, right? Like whether it's business goals that you are prioritizing, or it is user adoption that you are prioritizing, or it is maybe, just working through technical debt that you are prioritizing. So we used to do that exercise, and I feel a lot of it in PM interviews is also around solving a case study. So, for example, they can give you a company, they can say that, oh, this is Blinkit, and you have used it. What would you add as a new feature if your goal is to get more customers onboarded? Or it can be if you want to drive sales from the existing users, what would be a feature that you would add? So I would say, start by thinking in those realms. Maybe make a group that gives you diverse perspectives, and yeah, form a habit around solving these.
Yeah, I think Neha's right on point. I think getting a group and doing it is the best way to do it. Like I think you end up sort of you end up doing a lot, solving a lot of problems too, and you get a lot of different perspectives. And plus, doing mocks always sort of prepares you for what's really going to happen in an interview, right? So it's the closest you can get to an actual interview. So I think there are resources online. I think the last time I was sort of job hunting, I used Exponent, and Exponent seemed to be really good. So I think a lot of free YouTube videos online just to sort of get up to speed of what different cases can look like. I think there's someone who's asked SQL over there. I think SQL is helpful for sure. It's not like a must have. I would say ki, when you're going in a startup, being hands-on on SQL is important because a lot of times you might not have an analyst who's handy, and you might have to just query by yourself and get the data. And to be very frank with you, it's empowering too, right? Like a lot of times when I want to really sort of get data quickly, I can just query by myself and get the output. So I would suggest ki if I was sort of hiring someone, let's say at a startup, I would SQL would be a plus, right? Because that person would not be dependent on sort of an analyst to get data out. So I would say ki, yeah, in smaller companies, the having multiple skills always helps. So SQL is one of those for sure. Guesstimates is super important. It's a part like every interview you give, whether it's at startups, whether it is at bigger companies. Guesstimates, case interviews are like the way to sort of crack interviews. So you have to practice. Uh, like if you have never done it, take 2 weeks off and just do it with a group of people, right? A lot of people can do PM, so you'll have that group easily formed.
Okay, that's great. I think those are great answers, and everyone has gained a lot of valuable insights today. I do not think there are any more questions, so I think let's end the session now. Again, thank you so much for joining in. We've had a lovely conversation. I myself have a lot of fun today, and a lot of wisdom you have shared upon us. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll end the
Yeah.
session now.
Thank you so much. I think you guys can reach us out too. I think probably Sana, you can just forward our LinkedIn or like contact or something. If we can help you in some way, if we want to sort of just chat sometime, let's connect. Like we both are sort of we love to help our like sort of alma mater. So
For
stay in
sure.
touch.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having us. And as Viresh said, happy to help. Let us know how we can help in any possible way.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good
Thank you
one.
so much, guys. Have a great day.